This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, everyone? Great to have you with us on another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. And today will be Adam Lowry Appreciation Day on Winnipeg Sports Talk. The captain is back, signing a 5-year extension at a $5 million AAV. The heart and soul of the Winnipeg Jets will most likely be a Jet for life. Announced yesterday in a very unique way. It wasn't broken by one of the insiders. It was broken by Chairman Mark Chipman at the True North Gala last night. And credit to the Jets social media team and, of course, Sarah and her runway team for doing an amazing job at giving everyone that was there a gala, a little bit of a first bit of breaking news, if you will. And Neil Pionk, as we'll see, was actually working as the social media admin last night, pressing send on the tweet that announced the Lowry extension to Winnipeg Jet fans around the world. We will talk about Adam Lowry and the Jets with Kevin Sawyer. Perfect day to have Sawyer on the program. I don't think anyone has a better insight into just exactly how much Adam Lowry means to the Winnipeg Jets off the ice than someone that travels with the team and is around the team on a daily basis throughout the season. And certainly, I don't need to tell any of you how important Adam Lowry is on the ice. And man, he's been great. You know, it took him a game or two to get back in after a surgery that cost him the entire offseason. And he's been really leading the way over these last 4 games. The Jets have gone 3-1 after not a very nice start to that last road trip that they just finished up. We'll also talk about the upcoming game tomorrow night with the Carolina Hurricanes. Hurricanes did not do us any favors last night. You go into Minnesota, you outshoot the Wild. I think it was something like 45-19, but the Wild get 2 points in the extra frame, of course. Overtime for everybody these days. Everything's a 3-point game. But Nikolai Ehlers and the Canes, I imagine, are in town tonight. And, of course, it'll be an emotional return for Nick tomorrow at the Canada Life Center for that Jets-Canes game, which, of course, we've filled our Winnipeg Sports Talk section for tomorrow night. Looking forward to seeing all of you there. If you don't have tickets yet, the WST seats are gone, but try and grab a pair, whether you go to Ticketmaster or Fans First, in and around Section 316. Join us in the hangar. Should be a good group tomorrow, welcoming Nick back and hopefully sending him away with a great ovation and appreciation for his time in Winnipeg and nothing to show for the game and hopefully a big Jet win. We'll also go around the National Hockey League with Dave Pagnotta from the 4th period. Some pretty big-time problem spots right now. I spent some time last night, the sicko that I am, immediately after the Oilers gave up 7 and lost to the Washington Capitals, tuning in to my friend Tom Gazzola and the EST postgame. So we'll hit on, obviously, the latest on the Jets, the Central Division, but the rest of the National Hockey League with Pags, Kevin Sawyer. And listen, big weekend coming up, or games tonight and the weekend for the Manitoba Moose. And the Moose playing well lately, have won 4 in a row, and now get Brad Lambert, Parker Ford, and Nikita Chibrikov back into the lineup. So we'll check in with Dan Fink from the Manitoba Moose on this upcoming homestand and how they integrate 3 players who've been with the Jets all season so far, all at the same time. A little later on, after Fink Patty G, Pat Gregoire, who we had a great time with, him and the Cool Bet boys on Saturday and throughout the weekend in Grey Cup. He's going to join us. We'll hit the Thursday nighter and have more details on the poker tourney, which will be the next WST poker tourney. Mark it down, gang, next Tuesday, 8 p.m. over at Cool Bet. We'll have more details on that as well. Hey, listen, just before we bring in Michael Remis, a huge thanks to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Cool Bet, Princess Auto, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating and Electrical, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Uptown Alley, Canadian Club, St. Vital Dental Center, and Rolly's Transfer, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug. We'll probably, when we're talking Adam Lowry's extension, get into a why not question of the day for not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray right off the bat. And, of course, your feedback for fansfirst.ca. Remo, what's going on? How are you?
Feeling good. Us here on a Thursday. No Jets tonight to discuss, but big signing yesterday. Everyone in a good mood in the chat, so I'm feeling pretty good here, Huss.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How about that news last night? Lowry, the captain, the heart and soul of the Winnipeg Jets, back for another 5 years. This didn't really come as a surprise to anyone. I think the fact that Lowry, has been just so committed to this community and this team, and we all know what he's meant to the organization throughout, but as the captain for the last couple of years, he was a priority. I mean, I think they had to wait to get him back on the ice and obviously take care of the Kyle Connor business. But you look at the way Adam Lowry's looked for the last few games, and there was absolutely no doubt that the captain is back. And now there'll be no talk about when's the extension coming. The guy with the C on his chest will have that for the foreseeable future. 5 more seasons. And I will say, I know we've talked about this, where would this come in over the last little bit? Very rarely can you say you nailed it, but that prediction on this program of 5 years and $5 million was exactly what it came into. Lowry, of course, will be 33 in March, so that's going to take him through 38, and you would imagine his NHL career here as a Jet for life.
Yeah, we got a lot of messages after the signing came out, Huss. Is Hustler near a produce section? People were messaging me. I posted on our social media, on our Facebook page. I think someone posted on our Instagram. Is Huss at a produce section? I was on the couch. I saw my phone. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And yeah, this is something that we knew was in the pipeline. That was likely to happen. Just don't know when. But nice to see that Adam Lowry will be a Winnipeg Jet for life and joining a core that includes Mark Scheifele, Connor Hellebuck. With Josh Morrissey's got a couple years left. You imagine he'll sign an extension. Gabriel Velarde, Neil Pionk. A number of players here signed long term. And I guess the one thing for Adam Lowry is he turns 33 in March. Is that real? Still think of him
That's
as
how
like,
old we are. We think of him remembering little Adam Lowry, selected.
Is that
that first draft class?
It was him and Scheifele.
Here's the trivia question. Here's the trivia question for you folks.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Scheifele, and you can pull it up just to make sure that I'm right. I'm doing this off the top of my head.
Okay.
Mark Scheifele, the first round selection of the Winnipeg Jets. Adam Lowry selected in the 3rd round of the Winnipeg Jets. Without looking, who can say in the chat who the Jets picked in the 2nd round of that draft?
Was it Sutter? Lucas Sutter?
Lucas Sutter, yes.
I can probably tell you the other picks in that draft, too, off the top of my head. I was there. Brandon Serville, Zach Ewan was like 7th round, wasn't he? I don't remember if there were more, but those are the 2 other ones that I remember. But yeah, 2011, and we talked after the last game with the Scheifele, Connor Morrissey connection. You include Adam Lowry in that with a group of guys that have been here for so long together, that have that close bond, and imagine that will continue going forward with a 5-year extension for Adam Lowry, and he's just been an anchor on that 3rd line. I mean, you can go through this list of line mates here. If it's Lowry, Kopp, Tanev, with Lowry, Appleton, Tanev, Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter, whoever it's been, that has really been a shutdown, a key key piece of the Winnipeg Jets through their run here with Adam Lowry on the Jets. And as you mentioned, captain as well, third captain in history, brings leadership, leadership to the team, drags guys into the fight, and has scored some big goals as well.
I remember in the year that Bones was here after Wheeler had the captaincy stripped, and they were operating without a captain. God knows we spent a lot of time talking about who the next captain would be. And it really did seem, that was at a time, where we didn't know what the future with Mark Scheifele was. And to be honest, I think it kind of looked more likely than not that Mark wouldn't be around. Obviously, that's turned around, and that's been very good for the Winnipeg Jets. But it really seemed like it came down to two players, Adam Lowry and Josh Morrissey. And if you recall, Remis, throughout that year, we really spoke of those two guys as kind of 1A, 1B. 1 week it would be Adam Lowry's the guy. The next week it would be Josh Morrissey. I don't think this could have worked out any better for the Winnipeg Jets. And this is not to take anything away from Josh, because he is a massive part of this team, massive part of the leadership group, one of the top defensemen of the league, and he is an irreplaceable player for the Winnipeg Jets. But I actually think that the selection of Lowry was something that ended up being great for Morrissey, great for Mark Scheifele, great for Kyle Connor, in that you had a player that, is not you could argue that he's a top six because of how much his line plays and how effective that they are. But having Adam Lowry being the captain and everything that he is willing to do on and off the ice for the Winnipeg Jets does really allow a player like Josh Morrissey, to focus on playing hockey, backing him up. Certainly there's some media, obligations, and Josh would never shy away from that. But, much like what he does on the ice, he seems to make the guys around him better. And I think he's done that from a leadership perspective. You want to talk about leading by example. There's no one that's done the things for the Winnipeg Jets like Adam Lowry has done, scoring big goals. We've talked about playoff Lowry, taking on some of the biggest, toughest, baddest dudes in the NHL when they didn't have, a true heavyweight, if you will, that was taking care of that. I know that there was a lot of excitement when he was named captain, but I think you can look at these last couple seasons and look into the future going, they absolutely nailed it with their choice. And I got to tell you, there are very few times where you get a signing, of a player at this stage in the career that's so nearly unanimously approved, but that's exactly what the case was. And, listen, I think that the Jets will get some really good value on that contract for the next couple of years. Obviously the last couple, we'll see what role Adam plays and if he's able to continue to play at this, but I don't think there's any doubt that this is a contract where every dollar and every cent has been earned both on and off the ice.
100%. Adam Lowry's been a huge part of this community. Does work with the Toba Center. He's got engaged this summer to a girl from Winnipeg. So again, huge part of the community. It was a big part of, bringing the locker room together, when they were without a captain and then being named the captain. Unanimous approval here. I'll have to put out a poll for the listeners with the contract, their thoughts on it. I imagine everyone is pleased. And as you said, maybe the last year or two, there could be some drop off, but the cap will be going up, and we'll get to that road when we get there. But I agree. The next few years, Adam Lowry, a huge part of this team, and you hope they continue to put the pieces around this core to make a deep Stanley Cup run.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know what? Let's do that right now. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Don't forget, if you've been sleeping on getting your winter tires on, Chris and the fellas at Not will take care of that for you. Make sure to give them a buzz. They got a winter tire program as well they can help you out with. Your favorite Adam Lowry moment. If you just want to talk about what your thoughts on the contract signing, absolutely. And Remis will put a poll up on that. But your favorite Adam Lowry moments. And Remo and I were sort of brainstorming earlier today, over the course of 15 years, all these games sort of just meld into one long, endless season. But man, he's had his hand in some big moments. And obviously the biggest one was last spring, which we'll get to in a minute. But here's some love to Sarah and her crew from What Runway. And if you didn't see what happened last night, and even if you're listening on the podcast, you'll get some good insight into how this news was dropped to sponsors and supporters of the Winnipeg Jets last night at the Winnipeg Jets Gala in support of the True North Youth Foundation. Here's how it sounded.
Players that have signed here as free agents. You've also been able to retain a large number of your players through contract extensions.
So do you think we could see some more extensions coming soon?
Well, since you asked, Sarah, we've extended Adam's role as a Winnipeg Jet for at least the next 5 years.
Congratulations, Adam.
I told my agent kind of at the start of this process, I just wanted to say Winnipeg, and he says, well, that's not very good negotiating. So you might have to pretend a little bit, but I think both sides knew. I've been fortunate to grow up in this organization, be drafted by them, play my whole career for the organization, and to have the chance to finish it here is incredible.
All right, the nice little music, the outro there from the Runway crew. Special moment last night, and really, really well executed by everybody involved. I will tell you, I was speaking with a friend behind the scenes last night after the fact and just asking how it went. Oh, it sounded really cool. I wasn't at the event. And, I think they really wanted to, have this be a special moment for the franchise and for everyone that was there at the gala. And, obviously everything's done. And I think at some point earlier on in the evening, they started to get worried that this was going to get broken on X, basically. I mean, from one of the insiders. So there were some frantic calls to quickly change the program and move things up. And they maybe got to that a little earlier than they planned to give everybody that moment that that we just saw encapsulated by the Runway crew.
I did see Murat posting on X at 7:11 p.m. hearing the Jets have reached an agreement on a contract with Lowry, looking to confirm details. Last I'd heard there's some work to do. Let me double check the timestamp of when they posted it. They posted it at 7:46 p.m. So I imagine.
So maybe it was Murat's tweet that was getting a wait a second. We gotta get this earlier in the program.
Did you see?
Murat's been all over it. I know all the guys, all the big J's are always, they always want to be the first on the timeline of the 8 consecutive tweets saying the same thing. Adam Lowry has agreed to a 5-year deal at $5 million AAV. But listen, let's play this right now. This never gets old, Remis. Clip 3. This is the quintessential Adam Lowry moment of many. The Game 7 winner in overtime against St. Louis, called by our pal, the one and only Paul Edmonds. This from last spring in a moment that we will never forget. Funny enough, this goal is sometimes forgotten because when people think of that game, they think of Cole Perfetti with 1.6 seconds left in the third period. It was still Game 7 and Adam Lowry, the double overtime playoff hero.
For Kyle Connor, darts around, Connor back toward the line, Pionk walks the line, wrists it through traffic, he scores! Deflected in front by the captain, Adam Lowry. Jets win! Jets win! Jets win! In double overtime tonight! What a comeback! And they'll move along in the series and win it 4-3. Bring on the Dallas Stars. The whiteout has been held over to the second round for the first time since 2018. Lowry's third of the playoffs. And the Winnipeg Jets have done the unthinkable, coming back to beat the St. Louis Blues. They were down 3-1 until late in the third period. series. What a night. 4-3 the final in double overtime for the Jets. Baby!
Gotta love it. Oh my God, we'll never forget Game 7 against the Blues last year. And Adam Lowry, as he's been so many times involved in big playoff moments. Remo, maybe the coolest thing after the fact, and we played this before, but I mean, just while we continue the Adam Lowry appreciation thread, was the conversation with the guy that named him the captain of the Winnipeg Jets, Rick Bowness, who was doing work on TNT, getting Lowry on the show afterwards. This was Bowness and Lowry in the aftermath of the Game 7 double OT winner.
It's Bones. Listen.
Oh, Bones.
You know what I think of you.
You'll bring a tear to my eye.
I know, man. I know. Listen, that's why you're captain. That effort and that gutsy effort from that team tonight personifies you. Your work ethic, your team commitment, your compete. Man, I couldn't be happier for you. You know I love you. You know I miss you. And I couldn't be happy for you, man. You're doing a great job. Keep it going. Good luck against Dallas. But, man, I'm very, very proud of you.
Thanks, Bones. You know, those words mean a lot to me. You know, I love you. I appreciate, you know, the relationship, the time we got to spend together, even getting to catch up at the end of March. And, you know, glad Judy's doing well, too. So we miss you in Winnipeg. I know you might be a little torn, you know, two former teams, but we're going to always take you in our corner, Bones. I appreciate that. I was going to have to send a care package.
Ask these guys. They know it's Jets all the way.
He's been living and dying.
That was such a cool television moment in the aftermath of that Game 7 winner. But, you know, Remo, we've referred to playoff Lowry before. I mean, I'm not sure that there's a player that's kind of stepped up their game more in the big moments over the years than Adam Lowry has. And there's been some other moments that unfortunately have sort of been forgotten because, you know, the team didn't win. A goal 10 seconds into Game 5 against St. Louis in the 2019 playoffs. Unfortunately, that game is remembered for Kevin Hayes pulling the goal off the goal line that would have put us up 3-0, I should say. And obviously the miserable and heartbreaking way that game ended. And, you know, unfortunately, the double overtime game that didn't go the Jets' way was in the Vegas series in game number 3, you know, in their most previous meeting. But if you recall at that game, the Jets were down 4-1 with about 10 minutes left in the game. And we'll tweak your memory with this incredible tying goal from Adam Lowry late in the third period.
He can't get it out. Onto the stick now, Nemesnikov in the high slot. Now for Pionk, shoots, fired it wide. Rebound, hopped over the stick of Connor. Far side Wheeler trying to keep it in and does. 6-on-5 for Winnipeg. 29 seconds to go in the period. Sent around to the near side. Kept in by Pionk. Shovels it toward the net. Deflected in front. They score! Adam Lowry with his 4th goal of the postseason. And we are tied at 4. How about that? 22 seconds left in the period. And Adam Lowry ties it. And this place is going crazy.
Another Paul Edmonds overtime classic call. From another big goal from Adam Lowry. Listen, you know, I know we usually do this later, but let's just get to fan feedback. Brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay, no added fees when you're picking up your tickets at fansfirst.ca. A lot of people, Key, who's cutting onions? Cut the music. I'm going to cry. You can tell how much this guy means to fans of the Winnipeg Jets. And you know, of all players, I think the support of the fans, you know, really resonates with him so much. And part of the reason why you heard him earlier saying that, I don't think, you know, I just wanted to be in Winnipeg. That might not be the best negotiating play. Kim Sawchuk, I'm weepy. Derek Schmidt, did you guys get quoted in that runway too? Huss Barry Horowitzing himself with the 5x5 LOL? Yeah, I couldn't help it. Alan Hayes, Adam Lowry taking on Vegas Ryan Reeves was the first of many moments. We were going back at a few of his scraps as well. I mean, we can't forget about that, the way he stood up for his teammates. It was a year ago in the first half of that doubleheader where the Bombers were playing in the West Final later on the afternoon, and the Jets were taking care of the Dallas Stars 4-0 in the third period. And Jamie Benn thought that it'd be a good time to go and cross-check Cole Perfetti from behind, and he got the tap on the shoulder from the captain, Adam Lowry, who took care of him. And, of course, that Wild rivalry, the rivalry with the Wild, which really heated up a couple of years ago, it was once again Lowry stepping up against Ryan Reeves, one of the toughest guys in the league, to back up and tell him to, and the Minnesota Wild to step off. Tons of things going on. Phyllis, I saw the notice on my phone when my meeting was done. Absolutely overjoyed to see it. And then just the Game 7 just gets everybody on the horn. What a call, one for the history books, and we're going in on that. Let's, by the way, fan feedback. Keep your Adam Lowry's coming in. We're going to talk more about him and the upcoming games with Kevin Sawyer in a little bit later on in the program. Again, fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, we've got our pal Dave Pagnotta coming up in just a second. Let me shout out our friends at Uptown Alley, Winnipeg's #1 spot for fun and good times, whether you're a kid, a teen, or an adult. Uptown Alley is an incredible new facility at 1301 St. Matthews, which has 5-pin lanes, 10-pin lanes, an incredible arcade, games where you win tickets. You can take home great prizes as well, not to mention food selection that will absolutely blow your mind, and a great selection of beverages as well for those good times. Now, the holidays are coming up. And we know, the winter's right around the corner. Think about maybe some Uptown Alley gift certificates for the stocking stuffer, something to be under the tree. And if you're thinking about planning a great gathering, maybe even around the holidays, think about Uptown Alley. It's a heck of a lot better than just sitting together all in a restaurant or something like that. Go out there and have some fun while you're doing it. You can go to uptownalley.ca for more information. Give them a call at 488-0000. And don't forget, every night, daily deal after 9 p.m., the Bowl and Play special, 90 minutes of bowling and a $10 arcade card for $20.49 for 5-pin and $22.49 for 10-pin. Adam Lowry's not going anywhere, and thank God for that. However, if you are and you have a move plan coming up into the new year, lean on our friends at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Family owned and operated right here in the Peg, now into their 7th decade. Head on over to Rollies.com and click on Request an Estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and simply let them know when and where you're moving, what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that Rollies customers have been accustomed to now for over 60 years. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies, the most trusted name in the moving game. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Well, I can see the big smiles in the chat just from the comments in the aftermath of the Lowry extension. Speaking of smiles, if you need to get your smile worked on, or it's been a minute since you've been to see the dentist, why don't you pop by and see our pal Dr. Terry and his amazing staff at the St. Vital Dental Center, now with an amazing new location with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building at 167 St. Anne's, taking care of customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus. St. Vital Dental Center can do it all, cleanings and checkups, all the way to things like dental implants. For more information on everything that St. Vital Dental Center can do for you and your family, go to stviteldental.ca, book an appointment, pop in and tell Terry and the guys that Huss and Remis sent you. And hey, just before we bring in our pal Dave Pagnotta from the fourth period, I know there would be a lot of Jet fans cheersing the Adam Lowry contract signing. Why don't you do that with the official, original Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club? Since 1858, it is the standard for Canadian whiskey. And of course, you can pick that up at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Limited editions left of that special edition Blue Bomber bottle. But while you're at it, keep your eyes out for, just for the holidays, the Canadian Club cranberry ginger ale, available in 4-packs and 473 milliliter cans. Don't worry about mixing it, getting the cranberry juice, get the good stuff already ready to go. Pour it over some ice, serve it at your holiday parties, or just enjoy it when you're getting festive over the next 6 weeks or so. Right now, until it's gone, cranberry ginger ale from Canadian Club, available right now at both beer vendors, as well as your local Manitoba liquor marts. All right, let's talk some puck. Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period, joins us now. Dave, what's going on? How are you? Hold on a second. I think we got you. You got him muted, Miriam?
Let me just do one thing. Sorry about that, Dave. I think you should be good now.
Perfect. All right, Dave, what's going on? How are you? Okay, Rima's just going to take that echo off, and then we should be good. I think everyone's just so pumped that the captain's around for another 5 years. Nice bit of business by the team to get their heart and soul player signed for 5 more seasons.
Yeah, definitely. And this was something that, they've been talking about, for some time, and talks really started to escalate at the start of the month to get that going. So mission accomplished. He locks in at a $5 million AAV. There's some protection tied to all that and everything. But, this was something they were obviously, eager to do, excited to do. He wanted to stick around. And you get another guy that comes off the potential UFA list for next summer, but he's happy about it, and so are the Jets.
Yeah, and they did it in a really cool way. Last night was the Jets Gala, and I guess they'd managed to keep it tight enough that they, although I did mention earlier in the show, talking to some guys behind the scenes, they had to move that portion of the program up a little bit, worried that the news was going to break, but they ended up doing that. And then when talking to Adam Lowry about it, he said, I just told my agent that I wanted to stay in Winnipeg. And he goes, that's maybe not the best negotiating ploy. But the bottom line was there was never any doubt that Adam Lowry and the Winnipeg Jets were going to continue moving forward together. And, considering where he's at, and I will admit, I was wondering how long this would take to get done, because this is a player that's coming off a hip surgery, missed the entire offseason, early part of the year. You kind of wanted to see, how he's going to be when he comes back. It took him about 2 games, and he's been one of the best players on the ice every night. And it's been kind of amazing to see how quickly he's come back into form based on what he went through in the offseason.
Yeah, you mend, you're trying to repair one part of the body, but the rest of the body is also getting some solid rest, and gearing up. They know what type of player he is. They know the value that he brings to the table and what he means to this franchise on and off the ice. So, from their perspective, this was a no-brainer to get done. Obviously, a little fine-tuning on some numbers and meeting in the middle and this, that, and the other. But, as you said, he made it clear he wanted to be here. He wanted to stick around and continue his career with the Jets. The team was more than happy to accommodate that.
Yeah, so the Jets move on, and you just look at what Kevin Cheveldayoff's done. With this core, and listen, people are still gonna say, "Oh, guys don't want to play in Winnipeg," but I think the body of work speaks for itself. Just in the last year, Alex Iafallo, Nino Niederreiter, Kyle Connor, who would have seen a big number waiting for him, especially with all the other free agents that have fallen off the board, and now Adam Lowry. And I think this goes back to Rick Bowness, kind of creating that culture, the team having the success that they've had, the support that they have here. Guys come here, they like it, and they stay as Winnipeg Jets.
And you add, a couple of years ago, Hellebuck and Scheifele committing long-term. It's a combination of the culture and then just opportunity to win. And for this group, the window continues to be wide open. So it's an attractive play. Like, players want to win. People around the league obviously want to win. That's why they're playing. Money is one thing, but the competitive nature of all of these guys leads them to being those fearful athletes that want to capture championships. They want to win, and they believe in what they've got, clearly within the Jets organization and within that room, that they can get things done. And that's a big factor as to why some of these guys have committed so, long-term for their group. And you're going to start to see, you're going to continue to see, this team being aggressive, trying to see where they can add, where can we fine-tune some areas to help our chances as the season moves along. And you're going to see, those veteran players that are out there going, I want to be part of this because I think there's a good opportunity here to capture a Stanley Cup.
With Lowry back in the mix, Cole Perfetti back in the mix, the Jets had their full complement of team basically for the first time this season against the Columbus Blue Jackets and looked great. I mean, listen, they did take advantage of a team that I thought worked really hard considering that they played in Seabus the night before and had flown over, or got in late at night. But bottom line is they took care of business, looked as good as they had all year long. And it does coincide with the one guy that got away for the Winnipeg Jets and Nikolai Ehlers in his return with the Carolina Hurricanes coming into town on Friday night.
Yeah, you can't, everybody's going to have their own decisions. And this was something they knew. We've talked about this for months on end leading up to July 1, that Nick Ehlers was expected to take his talent elsewhere. Personal choice. Been there for a while, obviously, competed. Guys want to move. Yeah. Like he was a great piece of this club for a good stretch. Just wanted to change, and sometimes players do that, and that's just the nature of the beast. But doesn't take away from Connor sticking around, and again Scheifele and Hellebuck kind of starting things off with those with their respective extensions a couple of years ago, and so on and so on. So things are good right now in Jets Nation, and if they keep this going, I'm anticipating Chevy at least just keeping an eye on things to see what the market has to say, later on in the year as we get closer to the March 6th trade deadline, where he can potentially add. We've seen moves near the deadline. We've seen moves a little more in advance, and I think he would like to, like a lot of teams would like to pounce sooner than later in terms of I'm not talking this minute, but I'm saying end of January, early February before the Olympic break, maybe pull something off there if the opportunity presents itself. But any player that's going to be added to an environment like what the Jets have created, they're going to be pretty psyched and pretty excited and eager to hit the ice with the new group and help as much as they can to try to bring a championship to Winnipeg.
Yeah, I think that we'll start probably hearing more about trade wins or targets for the Winnipeg Jets, as you just mentioned, sort of into the new year, but in advance of the trade deadline, especially. Just quickly, how do you think the Olympics are going? Will guys be able to be traded during the Olympics, or is that a no-go this year? Will there be a moratorium on making moves?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's a roster freeze or anything along those lines. I have to double check what the schedule, what it says within the schedule. Off the top of my head, I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think the only roster freeze is over that holiday period.
That being said, I do think that there might be a real push by GMs to try to get some deals done before that break. It gives you, these players that are coming in, assuming that they're not participating in the Olympics, some time to come in earlier. As opposed to moving your entire life in 48 hours. Got a little bit of time to do that, which I think would be advantageous. Get in with the team, meet everyone. And, I think teams would have a head start on having players, kind of join them, having the time to do all the things that sometimes, scuttles your entire life. So there could be almost two separate deadlines, if you will, when we get to it later on. That being said, Dave, there's a bunch of teams that right now are in, even though with the, I like to call it the fake standings right now in the NHL because of all the extra points and the 3-point games compared to the 2-point games. There's no real separation for the most part in this league, but there are some teams that are playing well, that win in regulation, and there's others that are just doing whatever they can to get through. The Edmonton Oilers, let's start there. League low, 4 regulation wins, which is an absolutely stunning number. They lose again last night. They are at NHL 500 right now at 9-9-5. Now, the caveat is we've seen them be way worse than this at this time of the year, and they've made it to the Cup final. So I think we all expect them to be better, but let's talk about what Stan Bowman's facing right now, what he has, what he can do. The talk of goaltending in Edmonton has been a constant, but it seems to be even more ramped up. Are there any options around the league when it comes to goaltending for the Edmonton Oilers? And do you anticipate them making a move? And is there any targets right now that this team has?
They don't have cap space. Any team that wants to make an impactful move, and I'm in Toronto, the Leafs would love to do something too. They don't have cap space. for that. And the Leafs actually have more cap space than the Oilers. But Edmonton, if they're going to make anything big happen, that means a big body is leaving because of a big price tag. And I just don't see it. And that's why Stan Bowman last year and again already this year has had to come out and say, it's not just the goaltending. They're comfortable with their goalies. Now, yeah, if an opportunity arises and they can get better at any position, any team's going to look at it. But for the Oilers, there's not a lot of cap space. Now, if somebody gets injured and is done for the season and they can utilize that space come playoff time as well, okay, at that point you can work at it. But then now you've got another hole in your roster because somebody got hurt. Or even if you're making a trade, you're going to have to give in order to get. And I don't see the options right now in terms of legitimate number one, hands down type of goaltender. Like, can you go out there and look later on in the season at a Cam Talbot who's making under $3 million, who doesn't have no trade protection, who they're familiar with that within that organization? Sure. But where's Detroit going to be later on in the season? They may not want to move them. That player. There are others that are out there, but people have suggested, what about Merzlikins in Columbus? What about Saros in Nashville? Again, sure, you can take those chances, but there's $5.4 and $7.4 million cap hits you got to deal with. The Oilers just don't have that flexibility. I expect them to be very, very aggressive in the summer and in the offseason going into next season. But right now, they're almost handcuffed, and they kind of have to dig themselves out of this hole, which, as you alluded to, isn't that deep.
Well, and Saros is interesting. I was talking with Dustin Nielsen today when we were doing Lock Shop earlier. And I mean, even if you find a way to get him in there, he's got an extension that goes until 2033. And if it's more like the Saros that we've seen in the last sort of 18 months, that could basically nuke the entire McDavid window that this team has, and then have a bunch of years after on it. I mean, it's a really complicated situation for Edmonton that they put themselves in. Yep. But to your point, I mean, Stan Bowman does not have really much wiggle room at all. What's Brad Treliving up to right now? And is there any realistic solutions to what's plaguing Toronto right now?
Well, it's a combo, and a lot of it's injury driven. They said, I think Craig Berube, their head coach this morning, said that Stolar's injury is a little worse than they initially thought. He's not going to hit the ice until tomorrow or possibly Saturday. I don't even know if he's going to go to Montreal for the road trip. So you're dealing with that. You're dealing with Matthews. You're dealing with now Nyes, who had to get an MRI done the other day to make sure his injury wasn't worse. And thankfully for him and them, it's not. Who else? Like Tanev is out. Nick Waz is hurt as well. They're depleted. And even with a fully healthy roster, they were not doing as well because they hadn't bought into the system that they did so well last year for whatever reason. So this is a scenario now where the Leafs want to add, but nobody, just like in Edmonton, nobody's throwing them any lifelines. So yes, Brad Treliving, their GM's out there looking for a mobile puck mover on the back end. He's looking for a playmaker that they can add into their top six. Ideally, either right side. Actually, quite frankly, I was told ideally right side, but looking at their roster, they could add a 2-seat, move John Tavares to the left. They can move or bring in somebody on that left side and keep JT to the to the center. Excuse me. They have different spots that they need to address, and they have a little bit of flexibility in how they can potentially do that roster-wise. But they don't have a ton of assets to trade to bring in an impactful addition to this club at any point in the roster. So they have a few issues to deal with. As I said, they have a little bit more cap space, $2-3 million, something in that world, because of the termination of contract termination of David Kampf. But even that, like you're looking at having to move out at least one guy on the roster in order to fill a hole. And again, they don't have significant assets that they're willing to trade. They're not trading Easton Cowan. They don't want to move Ben Danford. There's another kid, I always forget his name. He's a Finnish kid that they drafted a couple of years ago that they like. They'd rather not move him. And they don't have a first-round pick for a couple of years. So the cupboard's bare, and it's a tricky situation for Treliving to potentially add to this group.
One other NHL GM that has never been shy to pull the trigger on a deal that I think probably has a lot more wiggle room and maybe more urgency to do it is Armstrong in St. Louis. Just thoughts on where the Blues find themselves right now, right near the bottom of the Western Conference standings, and what you're hearing percolating around St. Louis as to who might be trying to pick at their roster and what they're looking to do to try to salvage this season before it's a lost one.
Yeah, the vultures have been flying around St. Louis for a while. They're open. They're willing to listen on almost anybody, from what I'm hearing. So, whether it's a veteran guy like Justin Falk or Braden Shen, a younger player that has some no trade protection in Kyrou. He has full no trade, but I think there's a willingness to explore options if they're serious about, moving him. Teams always poke around. They're asking about Parayko. They're asking about Thomas. They're asking about this guy and that guy. Doesn't mean St. Louis is going to move all of them. You can call all you want. I'm still going to say no, kind of thing. But they are listing on a number of their players. Nobody expected them to be at the position they're in. Excuse me. And clearly they didn't either. So, I was at their game on Tuesday against the Maple Leafs here in Toronto. And I knew how rough of a game it was going to be for the Leafs. I didn't realize how rough of a game it was, or has been rough of a season, it has been for the Blues until I saw that game. That was a rough game for both clubs. And clearly there needs to be some type of change here to give this team a bit of a jolt, the Blues. But I don't know when that first domino is going to fall, because it certainly seems like the Blues are going to be open to doing more than just one thing. And I think they recognize it's going to be more than one move that's going to jolt them into place. But right now they're listening, and a number of teams, from my understanding, are having those conversations with them and trying to see what their options are in terms of making moves.
We mentioned the teams that we hear the most about: Edmonton, Toronto, certainly St. Louis. Is there any other hot spots in the league right now that you're kind of keeping your ear to the ground on of some potential changes?
Yeah. Outside of the primary suspects, Utah and Seattle are two teams that are looking to add. They'd like to add up front. They'd like to add an impact forward who can help put the puck in the net. Both of those clubs are on the lookout for that. I'm sure a lot of teams would love to add those pieces, but I look at the Kraken and the Mammoth as a couple teams that are looking, to do something there. And there's a willingness to do it. Like Utah is willing to spend a ton of money. Sounds like Seattle really wants to add, a top six guy. So we'll see kind of, where things go with both of those clubs. I think New Jersey to an extent as well. Even before Jack Hughes got injured, at the restaurant, they were a team that a lot of people are saying, just keep an eye out for the Devils. If there's an opportunity to go after a big fish, they're at least going to be in on the conversation in some capacity. So I'm looking at the Devils too, even with Hughes out for the next couple of months.
Yeah, that Jack Hughes thing is just insane. Frank the Tank's birthday party, and the Devils come out, they take a picture with him. The curse is undefeated. He's out for 2 months. And then this, like, the NHL became baseball was the one that had all the bizarre injuries. You got the Jack Hughes, and a Luosterainen in a barbecue accident is out.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that happened. If he put his hand on the grill or I have no idea. The Hughes thing, I heard when it happened is legitimately a freak accident. He kind of fell into some glassware and sliced his hand. There was a lot of worry that the tendon was going to be damaged.
Yeah.
Kind of alongside here. And thankfully for them, it wasn't, or at least severely anyway. So, he's only out, 6-8 weeks, whatever it is. The Luosterainen thing, I don't know. I don't know how that happened or what, but it's definitely freakish. So certainly something you don't expect, especially for being week to week, right? I think it's week to week. That's a hell of a burn.
Yeah, I just would have loved to have been in the room, the coach's room, and hear Paul Maurice's response to that. Like, not in public, his behind the scenes reaction to one of his players getting hurt in a barbecue mishap. It would have been. I'm
sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of choice words. Look, if I'm on that team and Brad Marchand's on that team, I can't wait to see the amount of chirps that Luosterainen is going to get. He's going to show up at his stall and there's like his chef's hat. Next day, there's some like tongs and a burger flipper and all that stuff, a spatula and whatnot. Like
special oven mitts, special
exactly.
oven mitts for him as well. It'll all be waiting there.
Apron, everything.
Hey, I'm staying out east. What's the fallout of JT Miller channeling his best PLD in his final days in Columbus? I mean, that shift is getting a lot of run on social media.
Holy cow.
And it looks terrible. Even worse for a guy with the freaking C on his chest.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to address it and saying, I need to be better. I think it was after the game. I don't think he realized that clip had gone nuts. That was
a
rough.
tough watch.
That was, it was. Yeah, I mean, he didn't really have to do too much, and he did nothing. That to me, there's still a lot of frustration in New York. Like, they thought they'd be a lot better. They thought they'd be in a much better position. They thought some of their kids would be taking the next steps. Lafreniere and Cooley would be taking some of those next steps. Schneider on the back end. They've been okay, but they haven't been to the level that the Rangers anticipated. Plus, JT Miller's performance. And Panarin didn't get going until he shaved his head. Maybe the whole team needs to do that. I don't know. But it's an interesting group because they, on paper, should be a lot better or at least look better than they are. It just hasn't really happened. And when you see a very lackadaisical, nonchalant effort in trying to defend or at least try to get the puck away from your captain, it's a bad look overall, but it's certainly indicative of I would imagine, part of the frustration that's going on in the Big Apple right now.
Back to the trade market. We mentioned Saros as a player that maybe the Oilers would be interested in, but it's very unlikely just because of everything else. I had heard that, or maybe just some people suggesting that the New Jersey Devils, in the situation they're in, would be maybe wise to pick up the phone and talk to Barry Trotz about Ryan O'Reilly. What do you make of the Nashville situation? They suck again. It looks like they are probably, in the next month or so, could be staring at a very similar situation to the one they were at the year before. Obviously, the big free agent signings have been a bust. Those guys aren't playing well. We've heard Stamkos' name out there. What do you make of where Nashville's at right now and what might be in the future for Barry Trotz?
They're like St. Louis right now. They're open for business. Give Barry a call. Let him and Poyle and those guys have a discussion over, who you might be interested in. They're listening, or they're willing to listen. And and they're willing to listen on Stamkos, and they're willing to listen on Marchessault and O'Reilly and a number of their pending UFAs like Bunting and Howla and others. They've got some good young pieces in the cupboard. They drafted well the last couple of years. They've got some good pieces in Evangelista, and they brought in Nick Hague, took advantage of Vegas's cap situation. He's only 26. They've got some pieces, but the entire group of this club, or the entire nucleus, is not working. And they're clearly not deep enough. They've got some pieces. It's just altogether, it's not working. Outside of their top six, it's rough. So they're going to look, and they're going to take calls. And I still think I'd like to be wrong on this because I'd like activity now, but I still think we're a few weeks away before we start to see a little bit more activity. But this is a club that has a lot of pieces. They're willing to make moves, and they're willing to have those calls. And I think with Marchessault and Stamkos specifically, I think if something does happen this season, it's going to be closer to the deadline. But it's a matter of how much is Nashville willing to retain on a contract. And I think they only have one slot left. I have to double check, but they might only have one retention slot left right now. I got to double check that. But anyway, regardless, they have to figure out how much they're willing to eat on those contracts. And, for a guy like Stamkos, teams would love to get their hands on him at $4 or $5 million, and give him a shot being in their top six on the right side, playing on the wing, which I think is where he's probably best suited at this stage. But there's going to be a cost to that as well. So I think the conversations are going to be fluent with the Preds, and there are a lot of pieces that some teams are just itching to pluck. It's just a matter of finding the right deal and when that is.
Pags, great having you on the program. Say what's up to DB. We'll look forward to everything you guys are cooking up the fourth period. And we managed to make it through a whole segment without obsessing over the Canadian Olympic team. I promise we'll do that the next time we have you on the program. Thanks so much for doing this.
Perfect. Awesome, buddy. I'll see you.
Great stuff. There's Dave Pagnotta at the fourth period. Check them out and all the great work that he and the fourth period team are doing covering the National Hockey League. All right, we're going to have Kevin Sawyer jump on. The Adam Lowry Appreciation Hour will continue. But do want to thank our friends, speaking of appreciation, how much we appreciate the support from Princess Auto for Winnipeg Sports Talk over the years. Of course, Princess Auto, synonymous with Winnipeg, headquartered and founded right here in the Peg and now coast to coast, but a huge part of our community supporting the Winnipeg Jets, the Bombers with Princess Auto Stadium, and of course, us right here on WST. Princess Auto is where you will find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you over at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon location, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. We did sort of an impromptu Chud's Power Sports Power Poll and our favorite Adam Lowry moments with everybody in the chat. Fun one, mocking up the Chud's Power Sports top Canadian teams yesterday with Dave McCarthy. But of course, Terminator and the gang over at Chud's in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231 are ready for the snow to fly. They got $500 off timber sled kits right now. I'm going to have to talk to the Terminator and find out exactly what that is. But right now, the snow's coming, and get real. They've got amazing deals preseason on Polaris and Arctic Cat, including a Polaris promotion where you can save up to $3,000 on select Polaris snowmobiles. They've got ATVs, they've got UTVs, Argo and Sasquatch vehicles, the best selection in snowmobiles. And as they've been doing for over 80 years, the most experienced staff in the business. And of course, they just won the Dealership of the Year from Snowman, Manitoba's Snowmobile Association, celebrating their 50th anniversary. Check them out online if you can't make it down today out in Gimli at chudspowersports.com. And for the best in parts, truenorthparts.com is there for you. You might want to check that out as well for some great clearance deals on gear and accessories as well. The Chuds family would love to take care of you as we get into snowmobile and ice fishing season. Visit them in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231 and shop online today at chudspowersports.com. And hey, speaking of winter, I know Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are busy right now because you don't want to be that guy that forgot about your battery and then is calling your buddy, hey man, can you come and give me a boost? Can you pick me up? Beat winter before winter beats you with a trip down to Manitoba Battery all month of November. Free battery testing. If you're wondering how you're setting up for the upcoming winter, they'll be able to tell you right away. And if you need a new battery, you will get the best price in town, period, bar none, beating the pants off the big box stores and shopping local at the same time at Manitoba Battery. Donnie's got 2 locations now for you. The original on Logan Avenue, the new one in the south end of the city on Dovercourt Drive. Pop by for a free battery testing and for all your battery needs. Of course, you can also give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com. Delivery citywide inside the perimeter from your local leader in all things batteries, Manitoba Battery. All right, let's welcome in our pal Kevin Sawyer, who's back from the road, ready for a couple more big games at Canada Life Center Friday and Sunday against the Canes and the Minnesota Wild. Kev, what's up? Welcome back. How was the trip out west?
It was amazing. The highlight for me, rented a Harley, Pacific Coast Highway, Malibu Hills. Yeah, that's a little selfish. The Jets didn't get the record they wanted, but I'll tell you what, 2 weeks, that's a grind for a broadcaster. I can only imagine how fatigued the players feel by the time they get home.
Yeah, I'll say this. Listen, they managed to find a way. You had to have 2 points against the Calgary Flames. We said it wasn't a must win, but it was a can't lose. I mean, you don't want to finish a road trip at 1-5, dropping a game to the team at the bottom of the NHL standings. But they got it done. And we'll talk about the Columbus game and moving forward in a moment. But let's face it, the big story last night, she were there as part of the gala. I mean, Adam Lowry, the heart and soul of this team, re-upping for 5 years. I thought it was really cool the way the team did it, kind of launching that at that event. And hearing Lowry speak right afterwards, the reaction of all of his teammates. This was we knew that this was going to get done, but now that it is, we can kind of just speak about the significance of Adam Lowry's role with the Winnipeg Jets on the ice, off the ice, and just how good he's looked after the first couple of games coming back from that hip surgery.
Yeah, first shout out to the media team and everybody involved behind the scenes with the way that they did the big reveal with Mark Chipman, Sarah Oleski, Neil Pionk clicking to X. Those guys work so darn hard behind the scenes to make sure that people at home get the stories, but they get them in a really cool way. I thought that was extremely well done. So good for those guys. Listen, I could go down a rabbit hole about Adam Lowry and all the things that, quite frankly, everybody in Winnipeg knows. As far as the impact that he has on the ice, there's no doubt. And he says it. I'll tell you this. I had a great conversation with Adam in Anaheim about the minuscule difference between a shift spent in the offensive zone and a shift in the D zone. And if you're half a step off, it's the difference between a good shift, a good period, or a good game. And for a big man, and especially with the details that Adam has in his game, that matters a lot. And you can tell that he's got that half a step back if he didn't have it in those first few games. So I think that third line consistently shift in and shift out has been the best, most consistent, impactful. Well, they're the identity line. And with Iafallo, they're remarkable. I want to tell you this story, and if you just permit me here, I remember when I was about 22 years old, it was with Arizona. Keith Tkachuk, big old Walt, former Winnipeg Jet, was a big dog on that team. We flew into New York late, and in the back of the bus, we were going to a hotel in New Jersey playing the Rangers, and guys were not happy. And Walt in the back of the bus in his Boston accent was like, "Wake me up, I'm having a nightmare." He was so mad that we were late, that we were staying at a crappy hotel, and it was a thing. And it riled up the group. And this is back in the 90s still, but it was, I love Walt, but I mean, he is who he is and was who he was. And that was infectious in a good way most of the time, but not always. We're sitting for 9 hours on the runway at LAX the night before, the day before a game in San Jose, and a game that the Jets lost. Not one complaint from the back of the plane, and I'll tell you why. And they had a right to joke around and complain. It was 9 hours of the team ordered some Chick-fil-A. So not only did Adam not complain, and the team didn't complain under his leadership, he's at the front of the plane offering us Chick-fil-A burgers and waffle fries. That's what Adam's doing. He's checking in with Chris Kreveziak, our team services guy. "Hey, any updates, bud? Any idea, so I can tell the guys what's happening?" He's such a gentleman, and there's certain things you can fake, and there's certain things you cannot fake. You can't fake sincerity. And Adam is the most sincere professional that I think I've come across. He gives his time to kids, he gives his time to reporters, he gives his time to me authentically and freely. I just wanted to tell you that story because I'm like, if there was ever a time for these guys to lose their minds, this would be one of them. Not one peep. If anything, it was just gratitude. Hey, who wants a Chick-fil-A sandwich? I took one, by the way. They're great.
Oh man, you got me going. I big fan of the Chick-fil-A sandwiches. I'm always mad. I'll go to KC. It'll be finishing up, and Aria's about to go. I want to get some, and they're closed on Sunday. Drives me nuts every time. But you mentioned that word, authentic. I mean, he is one of the most authentic leaders that I think we've got in the National Hockey League. And, we were playing earlier on in the program just some of the highlights. I mean, the Game 7 double overtime goal, and obviously that tying goal in the Vegas series. But we also played that clip after the double overtime winner of the conversation between he and Rick Bowness. And Rick Bowness has been around this game for a long, long time. And Bones will always be special to all of us here in Winnipeg for the impact and the effect that he had while he was here as the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. And he did a lot of great things in creating the culture. I'm not sure there's anything, frankly, that's even close to his decision to throw the C on Adam Lowry's chest. And the rest has been history.
It has been history. I really believe this, and don't quote me on this. I'll have to Google this after we get off the air. But I'm pretty sure, like with a pack of wolves, the alpha, the leader, is actually not in front. I think they're closer to the back. I got to go check National Geographic now. But to me, the real sign of a leader is not one that says, "Look at me, I want all the credit." It's a leader is somebody that does certain things to inspire people around them to be their best, and then allow them to take credit, allow them to feel good about themselves. And the humility involved with that is special. And that's why I think leaders, true leaders, are special. You can put a C on a kid that was first overall, and he's the best player on the team, and he's going to grow into a leader, and I get that, and that's the right thing to do. But you can put a C on a kid like Adam Lowry because you have no other choice because he's such a good person. His play speaks for itself, and you have to be a good player to be a leader. Otherwise, you just don't have the traction in the room. That's clear that Adam has that. The other night, I interviewed him on the air, and I love how authentic and real he is. He just speaks freely, and he complimented every center on the team, and now Parker Ford, who's in the American Hockey League, about how good of a job they've done. And he ripped himself about how ice cold he was. Well, he won a really important faceoff to end that period, in case you don't remember. That's the sign of a leader. Raise the people up around you and step into the shadows. That's why this team is who they are. Since they made that seismic shift in their core, in their leadership, Adam hasn't changed a thing about himself. He's just learned to grow, but he's allowed everybody else around him to be the best version of themselves. It's a loud room, and it's not because Adam's yelling. It's because he's making he's empowering people around him to be louder, and that's what you have to win.
Just on that, I was doing Lock Shop with Dusty in Edmonton, and they're all freaking out because of the Oilers right now and where they're at in the season. And I asked them, I said, hey, when was the last time? Because, they blew it last night in Washington. There's some Czech guy that I've never even heard about that was in the press box the day before that's doing the interview after the game. I'm like, what the hell is this guy going to say? And we got talking about McDavid, and the reason I bring that up is a lot of teams feel like they owe it to the best player on the team to put the C on his jersey. And Remis and I were talking before the show today just about Lowry and all the things that he's done for the Jets. And I remember our conversations once Wheeler had the C stripped and there was no captain. And it really did seem like it was going to be one of Josh Morrissey or Adam Lowry. And both would have been great choices. This is not, listen, we all love Josh and we see what he's doing right now. But I kind of got thinking about the player that Josh is right now and how great he is and what he does for the team. And, you think of where Mark Scheifele was at that point and then signing the contract and where he is right now. You're the perfect person to ask this. How much do you think it helps the star players on this team, Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey in particular, who have the A's on their chest, knowing that they have a leader like Adam Lowry who will always take the first bullet, who will always be the first one out there, in times when they are tough?
That is a great question, Huss. Honestly, we don't talk about these types of things enough, I think, where you can put a C on a jersey and with a really cool number and a name bar on it, and it sells, it makes the team a ton of money, and it's the right thing to do, and franchise player, all that. But there is a cost to that, where they're the first to step in front of the camera when things go well, but more importantly, when things don't go well. When teams lose, you go into those locker rooms. If you think coaches are the ones that are always talking, you're wrong. It's the players, and those rooms can go quiet. And if they're quiet, sometimes that's a good thing, but it can't be that way. And so who has to say the right things at the right times and then follow their words? It's the leaders. It's the captain. There is a massive weight that goes along with that. I don't know that most people would ever understand unless you were ever a captain at some level. And so you're right, because it allows freedom for, and listen, Josh and Mark and Neil and Kyle, they're all part of this leadership. There's no doubt, and there's a weight to carry with that, and they do a great job. But the captain is the captain, and I think that you're right that it allows those guys to to be a little bit more free and focus on what they can do that maybe nobody else can do. And Josh is one of one on this team. Mark is one of one on this team. And if you can be a little bit more free mentally and not have the burdens of what the responsibilities of a captain are, that's going to make you better. Let's just go back quickly. Colorado, in my opinion, doesn't win a Stanley Cup if Nathan MacKinnon is the captain. And that's all due respect. They win that because Gabriel Landeskog is their captain. Not their best player, but there's a difference. And you go back to St. Louis with Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, there's a common thread there where you've got these substance characters that can get you over the hump in times of darkness. Adam's that guy.
You know, he sure is. And I will just say this, you know, having obviously never been a player, but having worked, you know, for teams in the past, and, you know, you have to try to get players to do stuff and things that will really help you achieve what you're trying to do for the betterment of everyone. And listen, this isn't to slag Blake. He was a real intense guy. But the difference of having Adam Lowry and his buy-in to everything Winnipeg Jets, I mean, I'll just tell you, like, it's not easy to get any player, never mind the captain of an NHL team, in the offseason to go up on the top of the roof of the bloody arena to do videos to help sell season tickets and those sort of things. It's important. He knows it. He buys in. And when you have a guy making that example, I mean, all you need to do is look at the buy-in from this team right now, from what you were talking about before with the great work that Sarah and her team with Runway and the social teams does. It is a 180 from where it was before. It's great for the fans. It brings them closer to the team, and it's made them the likable group that they were that at times wasn't really the case in the past. And so much of that you can plant right now at the foot of Lowry and the example that he sets each and every day. And I'll tell you what, Kevin, just quickly as we get back to the on-ice business, I was really wondering how long it would take Adam Lowry to get back to his level, and frankly, whether that level would be there after such a significant surgery. It took him all of about 4 or 5 periods, and I'm sure you'd agree, like over this last stretch of 3-1 after the first half of that road trip when he returned, guess what? Once again, it's the Lowry line, shift in and shift out, setting the example, and man, they have been phenomenal.
More important now, in my opinion, than they have been in quite some time because of this. Because this team, although they showed some real signs against Columbus, Columbus is not a premier team in this league, and they were in a back-to-back, but it's still a good step forward. This team has had a bit of a speed wobble in the sense of trying to play Jets hockey, consistent, defining kind of championship, Stanley Cup caliber. And like I see that it's November, but if you're going to get pulled on the right side of habits, you need a player, a line, a template, and Adam's line is doing that. Now, I talked to Scott Arniel just quickly on that, where in games where you're struggling to score, I think they had 2 goals in 3 games on that road trip at one point, and the Lowry line was playing below the hash marks like they do. They were cycling the puck like they do. And I asked Scott Arniel and Adam, can the other lines recognize we're struggling to score and adopt that mentality? And to some degree, yes. And that's, you have to accept a shift that isn't going well. You don't get through the neutral zone easily. And you don't want Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor cycling the puck every shift. But to get back to your skill, to get back to seam plays, sometimes you got to do that. So just look to that line. Adam said this. He said, I think the bottom 3 lines, the bottom 9 players have to adhere to what we do sometimes wholeheartedly so that we can free up our top line to be who they need to be for us to win. And there's that humility from Adam again. So they're more important than just, oh, wow, they're heavy and hard to play against. They set the tone in so many different ways off the ice, Adam, like we've talked about, or on the ice, like, hey, guys, just do this for a few shifts and we'll get back on track.
You know, and just, you know, the one other thing, and someone just mentioned, who was it? So I remember who it was, Jay Mills. You know, the other part of leadership is that human side of it. And we all remember how crushing it was to lose in the fashion that they did in Game 6 against Dallas. But maybe the ultimate sign of leadership is what happened right after that, with guess who going into the penalty box to grab his teammate Mark Scheifele on what certainly was probably the toughest day, never mind of his professional life, the toughest day of his life, period.
Yeah, you cannot say enough. I mean, I think the easy thing to throw around is family. And, you know, all those kind of words. And I say throw around. It really is, Huss. And this isn't to pile on to Jets in the past, but I mean, it wasn't close to a family feel peripherally. I don't really know. But I mean, and we're in that room, we're around it. You're close enough to enough guys to know 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't. And that doesn't come for free. That doesn't come easily. And you have to do authentic things, not sometimes, but all the time. And like, I'll see Adam. I think I've told this story before. We had some extra ice, some friends at the Canada Life Center, and he showed up last year and he stayed not for 10 minutes. He was there for like 2 hours. He even had cake with us. It was a birthday party for just people that he knew. Like, he's just that way. I mean, you can't fake it. And he's just such a kind guy. I think of guys in my career, like Basil McRae comes to mind. Basil McRae and Tony Twist were on one-way contracts. I was in a two-way, and I was in direct, like I was trying to take one of their jobs. Basil McRae, before games, if he was healthy scratched, would come up to me and tell me things about the other team's fighters. They're lefties. They'll pop you off the top, or they're this or that, or make sure that you think about, he was helping me take his job. Now, he didn't want me to, and when he played, he was ferocious. But what that is just a good person being a good person, and he can't help himself. And so guess what he got from me? Anything he wanted. I wanted to go through a wall for that guy. I still idolize him today, and he laughs at me because when I see him in press boxes around the league, I'm like, hey, he goes, I know thank you. You've thanked me enough. But that's the impact that a good person can have on somebody. That's just one of many examples. Adam, I would say, does that for every single person he comes across. Imagine spending every day of your professional life with a guy like that, how that makes you better.
God, you just mentioned Basil McRae and Tony Twist. Those guys were absolute killers, Kevin.
Tony Twist, on my rookie year, back in we used to have to do our physical testing, and at that time it was 185 pounds to failure. And I was in good shape, and I always made sure that I was good in those areas. Tony did 50 and stopped. 50. And I'm like, I'm dead. I'm dead. It was insane. Like that was another era of Stu Grimson, Bob Probert, George Larocque. Twister was an animal.
Yeah, everyone was 6 or 8 inches taller when those dudes were on the ice. That's for sure. Hey, back to let's get back to the team overall. That game, we mentioned there's a lot of things baked into that game. Columbus playing the night before and getting in late and all that. But incredibly important for the Jets to go out and get a real positive start to this homestand after the way that last road trip said. And I think, from my perspective, that was one of the most complete 60-minute games. And I'll give Columbus a lot of credit. This wasn't a team that just, hey, everyone expects us to lose. We're gonna pack this in. They work incredibly hard. I think Evanson's doing a really good job with that team to compete each and every night. But to the Jets' credit, they, obviously there was the goal late in the first period. It was 1-1 game going into the second. That goal by Josh Morrissey was really an announcement. We are not letting this game get away, and they built on it from for the rest of the campaign. Would that be the most complete 60 that you've seen from the Jets so far through the first quarter of the season?
Yeah, and they've had some other games that stood out. Easier to stand out when you're below your average, below your expectations, but for a couple of reasons. I agree with you on the Evanston thing. His team's work, and that was not an easy game to play. Columbus, particularly when they got scored against. By the way, I used the term bump up shift on the broadcast a number of times because every time Columbus got scored against, their best shift was the next one, the bump up. And I found out since that a lot of people or some people don't know what a bump up shift is. So I got to remember that I can't use my old coaching lingo. That's the next shift after a goal scored for or against. But Columbus was hard to play against. I think it was important to have a really good outing because the Jets, for the first time, were at full health among forwards anyways. Fleury on the back end, he's not a top 4 guy regularly, so that's impactful, but not as impactful as the fact that you now have guys healthy scratched, in this case, Cole Koepke. So what Scott Arniel and his coaching staff are saying is, this is what we feel is our best chance to win. And now you're not playing wounded. You're not playing shorthanded. You're not shuffling your lines around. You've actually assembled the lineup that you think is the best answer. And so because the Jets responded with that, it was the first step towards okay, now we have no other option, no excuse but to build an identity. And I would say it was an identity game where all four lines played fairly similarly when they didn't have the puck. And that's been a theme here over the last couple of years. But then when they had the puck, you could tell how different they were. For a person that wouldn't watch hockey regularly, and if you would come to the game and pay attention, you'd be like, oh, that line with 55 on it's way, way different than that line with 36 on it. And then, of course, we all know why they're different. They should look different, but they didn't when they didn't have the puck. They were resilient. Yes, that was a step in the right direction. And it's going to be a different test. Carolina's a heck of a hockey club. And now it's time to start putting those games together for the better part of 60 minutes and beating some elite teams as well, where the Jets haven't really done much of that lately. So a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't wait for Friday for a bunch of reasons. Obviously, I mean, funny, we talk about all these guys that have re-signed. The one that got away is Nikolai Ehlers. Of course, he's coming in with his new team, and I'm sure there'll be a very extended welcome back for Nick when the time comes. But, this team now with the full complement of forwards, you were talking about Adam Lowry, and I got thinking about Morgan Barron as you mentioned it. And, Barron had played with Lowry at times, had been a winger, and now he's moved to center. I think he's picked up a lot of good habits from the guy playing ahead of him in the lineup right now. What did you think of that line and Gustav Nyquist's spot on that line as well? It seemed like there's a little bit of a different dimension, and I think that if he plays there for a while, certainly the way he was against his old team on Tuesday night, I think that there's it raises the ceiling for that line. Morgan Barron had kind of been doing it himself with his development as a center, but I have to admit, very intrigued to see that line maybe for a couple weeks play together with significant minutes, which they're earning with Gustav Nyquist, who we kind of thought maybe as a top six guy playing with Morgan Barron.
Yeah, two things to unpack there for me. I think of Kopitar and Byfield in LA, where you've got a guy that you're breeding to be your top centerman and will be next year in LA with Kopitar's retiring. You've got that mentorship that automatically makes this guy better. Byfield might not even understand how important Kopitar has been to him. I would put Adam Lowry in that same category for Morgan Barron specifically, because you have that type of size up the middle of your ice. It's franchise changing, in my opinion. And then you have a mentor like Adam that does it game in, game out, year after year. Morgan's been watching, paying attention. And by osmosis, you almost adopt some of those habits. So this is massive for the Winnipeg Jets. I'll tell you a quick story. One of the lessons I learned as a broadcaster early in my career was never tell a coach something about his team. Don't do that, because that frustrates them. I did that the other day without thinking about it. And I did talk to Scott O'Neill yesterday. He was awesome. And I didn't frustrate him. But one thing I said to him in my question was, we know that Gus Nyquist isn't a fourth line winger. What's the end game for him? And I'm like, oh boy, I just did it again. But he's on the power play. He's on the penalty kill. And in my opinion, and that's what I get paid to give, is my opinion. I don't think that he is a fourth line player if this team is going to win a Stanley Cup. I don't think that. At the same time, so far, he hasn't shown enough to be the second line right winger either. So by time and right now, that fourth line was the best. That was the best version of a fourth line that we've seen this year. And a lot of it was because of Nyquist playing off of Morgan Barron. He adds skill. He adds some wisdom and an offensive threat. So I went to Scott after him, like, that's what I get for telling you that he's not a fourth liner. And we chuckled about it. But whether he stays there long term or not, it just buys more time to kind of learn more about these players. All the while, hey, maybe he is a good answer for a fourth line that can defend and score as well. So I ate my words there a little bit. I still don't believe that's going to be long term, because this league changes. So you know it, I know it. And after the trade deadline, the men separate from the boys. Fourth lines need to crash and bang. That's not Gus Nyquist, but he was excellent. So too was that fourth line.
Hey, Kev, thanks again for doing this. Just before we go, I mean, a quick thought on, from a Jet perspective, what you're looking to see or what the coaching staff be looking to see and establish early on in this Carolina game tomorrow night against a team that probably won't be in a very good mood, not coming out with 2 points last night after almost tripling the Wild in shots on goal.
Yeah, Jackson Blank, Logan Stankoven, and Nikolai Ehlers are their second line. They're quick, they buzz. And that is the same as the Carolina Hurricanes. They're fast. We all know they're a shot mentality team, and they push the pace. They try to get behind you all night long. And if you make a bad play with the puck, they'll knock it down and beat you with numbers. So for the Jets, the neutral zone is always important to make sure you're above options. But if they don't manage the puck well and make the right decisions when the Jets have the puck, they're going to be looking over their shoulder and skating back towards their own goaltender all night long, because Carolina wants to do that. That's part of their game. So this will be a high-paced, high-flying affair. And I think it's headed by that second line with Ehlers on it.
Who, just from a coaching standpoint, Arnie's got the last shift. When that Ehlers line is out there, line 2 for Carolina, who do you think gets that assignment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In my preparation for the game tomorrow, that's one of the things that, I still think that Adam Lowry's line would be a good match against them, not because you can match the speed, but Adam's line forces 3 small men to have to defend. And if they are defending, they're going to, number one, wear them down. And now they can't match that battle. And now you take the speed out of them because they're chasing the puck. I think Adam's line almost always is the best fit for the other team's best, fastest line. Not to say that Arniel's afraid to go, skill, speed on speed. I think Adam's line could make those guys night and miserable.
Well, let's hope that will be the case. We'll give Nick a nice, warm welcome to Winnipeg back, and then make it a very hard, frustrating 60 minutes. Kevin, thanks so much for the time, pal. It is great to have you back on the program. Really looking forward to what should be an awesome weekend at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. There's Kevin Sawyer, TSN. Boys are back at it. He and Dan Robertson with the call tomorrow night, 7 o'clock puck drop, Canada Life Center. The Carolina Hurricanes and your Winnipeg Jets. Jets aren't the only one at home this weekend. Busy times for the Manitoba Moose, who got a big influx of players. We're going to bring in Dan Fink in just a minute. Chat was going great there. Where was this one? I got to say, Kevin Kowalik, hand-wringing in Edmonton. They're only 2 points worse than the Jets. Expectations higher with their recent seasons, I suppose. Couple important things to note about Edmonton and the Jets right now. First of all, the Jets have 3 games in hand. Jets are 5 games up on 500. Edmonton is at NHL 500. If you do that for 82 games, you get 82 points, and you probably miss the playoffs by about 15. There's a 27 goal difference in goal differential right now, and the Oilers have a league low 4 wins in regulation this year. So this is kind of sometimes why I say the standings are a little fake. With all the overtime points and all that, and rewarding shootout wins the same as regulation wins. Make no mistake, the Oilers have been playing way beyond their level right now, and they need to get their act together and do it quickly. But again, yes, it is unprecedented as to how packed the standings are, at least by points right now. But as they say, the Jets in a much better situation than Edmonton are right now. And obviously would like to pad that difference with their games in hand, 2 of which will be this weekend against Carolina and the Minnesota Wild on Sunday afternoon. Jets are off today, so no update to the clean line lines. We'll dive into that tomorrow. We'll have Connor down at the morning skate, and we'll update those for you on the show tomorrow. But I don't think we'll see any difference from what we saw earlier this week. Of course, our friends at Clean Line, proud supporters of the Winnipeg Jets and the leaders in plumbing, heating, and electrical in town, locally owned for 40 years in the business, doing both incredible work commercially and residentially. And of course, as we mentioned, they are the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets, captain approved by the newly re-signed Adam Lowry. And much like Adam Lowry does for the Jets, they've got your back with 24/7 emergency service for all your plumbing needs. Check them out online, cleanline.ca, for plumbing, heating, and electrical from great supporters of Winnipeg sports and local leaders for 40 years at Clean Line. Boston Pizza is going to be a great place to be tonight and tomorrow. We got a big NFL game. Pat Gregoire will join us a little later on. We'll dive into Houston and Buffalo tonight. And, of course, every Winnipeg Jet game at your local BP, pick-a-player contests, and more to win great prizes at your local Boston Pizza. And right now, They're firing up the pizza flights, the wing flights, the bite flights, and fry flights. Oh, and they've got JetBlue shot flights as well. And you'll have your chance to win that grand prize trip for two to California to see the Jets and Ducks in late February, tonight and every Jet game night at your local Boston Pizza. Holidays right around the corner. Many of you want to take care of that list early. Well, head on down to Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, the ultimate sports superstore with the best in merch of your favorite teams, including the biggest selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise you'll find anywhere, Bomber gear, NFL, NHL, NBA, and the biggest selection of hockey merch in town. Excuse me. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Big cheers to Little Brown Jug and then Dan Fink next on WST.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's get ready for a big weekend for the Moose with the voice of the Moose, Dan Fink, who's back on it. Finker, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, it's good to see you, Huss. Things are good. It's a nice sunny day here in Winnipeg and getting ready for finally the Moose to be on home ice for more than a weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, some home games coming up for a little bit, some home cooking as well. I got to tell you, that Moose room probably a little busier right now. The reinforcements have arrived and all at the same time.
Yeah, you don't see that too often mid-season in the American Hockey League when all of a sudden you get sent three players. Usually you might have three players come in and out and things like that. But getting basically an entire forward line, well, literally an entire forward line because they'll be all paired up together here tonight. But you don't see that very often. And certainly it is interesting to drop that into a group right now that up front is even before the arrival of those three players was rolling four lines pretty comfortably. So it's certainly something to behold with that forward group right now.
Yeah, and I mean, these guys have been playing together, practicing together. Almost, I guess, for Mark Morrison, a perfect situation where you're bringing guys that are hungry, looking to play, and have been practicing together and being together, and you really essentially just shift the lines down within the club and continue rolling because, as you can maybe get to right now, this team's been, they had a little blip of a few losses, and now they've strung four in a row together and looking to keep that going on home ice.
Yeah, and points in 8 of their past 10 games. So this Moose team, I mean, if you start the season with that, everyone's talking about how great you are. And then you hit a little rough patch, and it doesn't feel so bad. You start with a little rough patch off the top of the season, and everybody starts to get a little nervous. But yeah, the Moose have been rolling along at a pretty good clip over the last little bit. I mean, they still haven't been pumping pucks to the back of the net, but they've been defending very, very well. Their goaltending's been a real plus for them of late. And the nice thing, like you said, for Mark Morrison, is he has these lines that are rolling pretty well together. Everyone seems to have some good jam, and you don't have to mess with any of that. You just get to drop another line into the group and keep those other three lines going along. So that's a bonus for the Moose as well. Obviously, power play, penalty kill, things like that will shuffle around, and probably some tough conversations there for the coaching staff with some players who aren't going to be getting as much ice time. But it could really be a situation for the Moose where they can put any line out and expect to score on that shift.
I know folks that will be wanting to know about the young Jet prospects playing in. Give us a little bit of an update on Elias Salmonson and, of course, Braden Yeager and Colby Barlow and how they've been faring at the AHL level.
Yeah, I think for Elias, maybe not quite the first few games that he was looking for, but I think we're seeing him the last little while kind of get into that form that we saw last season when he was named to the Central Division All-Star team for the AHL All-Star Classic, things like that. So it's been just kind of a wrecking crew with Isaac Phillips over the last few games. They seem to have found some chemistry together and have been very, very solid. And then you look at Braden Yeager and Colby Barlow, and finding your way in your first season of pro is always tough. So it's been really good to see them finding some success. And we saw Colby get on the score sheet a few games ago with his first of the season. It was a big goal for the Moose, along with Fabian Wagner in that game against Texas, to propel a comeback win, to get this winning streak started. And then for Yeager, I mean, he's just been consistent, and he's been able to play with some veteran players, and we've started to see that skill shine through. I don't know, Huss, if you saw his assist on the power play back on Wednesday. It would have been just falling to the ice, no look pass, swinging it around to Samuel Fagemo for his first for a power play goal, excuse me. And that's the kind of thing that you like to see from a skilled guy like that. So he's been well insulated with some veteran players and found some early success, and who's hoping that he can continue to grow his game throughout this season.
Dan, tell us about the goaltending so far this year. How's it been, and how the start's been divvied up, and who do we expect to see tonight and in the weekend?
Yeah, we've seen Thomas Milic kind of grab the net for the last little bit, and he's been very, very solid for the Moose. And you look at his numbers continuing to improve and improve with every start. Obviously, when you have two young goaltenders, it's important for them to find some success, get that confidence going. And Thomas Milic is as unflappable as they come. So when things don't go his way, it just kind of moves on to the next thing. And Dominic DiVincentis, I think, didn't get quite the start that he was looking for, but we saw him come within a very odd situation of putting up a clean sheet on the Milwaukee Admirals, who are a team that had only lost 2 games in regulation. So he was very close to running the table in that game, and was excellent his previous start. So I imagine we might get the split between the two this weekend, but we'll see how it goes. It's been tougher to predict how the goaltending is going from game to game over the last little bit. So I presume to see Thomas Milic here tonight, and then we'll see what happens for Saturday.
Yeah, so let's tee up this homestand overall, because it's not just a quick weekend and then back on the road. The Wolves coming in, and then Belleville, and then another visit of the rival Chicago squad.
Yeah, I mean, when you play the first 11 of your first 15 on the road, the benefit is you're usually going to get a long home stint at some point, and they'll play their next 6 at home. And then it's really kind of 5 of the next 6 weeks that they're on home ice, because they'll go on that 3-game road trip and come back for almost the entirety of December and into early January. So there'll be a lot of time for the Moose to get settled into their homes here over the next little bit. So that'll be nice, especially leading into that holiday break. So yeah, like you mentioned, Chicago's in this week, sitting just 1 point ahead of the Moose in the standings, owning 3rd in the Central Division. So should be a tight matchup. These two teams played into overtime last time around. Seemed like the Moose were going to pick up a win in Chicago, but kind of a fluky goal from Dominic Badinka tied the game up, and the Moose just couldn't find a go-ahead goal in regulation before falling in OT. So 2 tightly matched teams. The Carolina Hurricanes, by virtue of being here this week, have been able to send a couple of guys back to Chicago this week. Dominic Fensore, one of those. He's been off to an excellent start. The very skilled defenseman. Bradley Nadeau is always worth the price of admission on the other side as well. He was one of the top rookies in the American Hockey League last season, scoring over 30 goals. The Moose didn't see him the last time out. They avoided that, but he'll be in the lineup here tonight. So some exciting young skilled players on this Chicago team and that Carolina system, and the Moose will try to kind of shut those scorers down as they roll with that very deep forward group.
You know, a couple other players I wanted to ask you about, but, I mentioned, Yeager and Barlow. Danny Zhilkin's been, playing. It's kind of like, it really seems like this is a next step for this young man, and he's been getting rewarded for it on the score sheet.
Yeah, had his first AHL multi-goal game the other night in Rockford to finish off that road trip, shorthanded goal, even strength tally. So for Zhilkin, I mean, it's just kind of carried on from all the way back to rookie tournament, where he was looked upon to be kind of a veteran leader at a rookie tournament. You know what, came in with a lot of confidence, had that big goal at a sold-out Bell Center, and just drew confidence from there, and has had an opportunity to kind of play on the Moose top line. He's playing right now with Jared Anderson-Dolan and Colby Barlow, and they've been able to put together some good games. Hasn't necessarily 100% broken through for them, but of course, when you look at his opportunities on the power play and the penalty kill. So he's getting those chances to work in situations. He's being relied upon by the coaching staff because he's developed his game to a point where there's a lot of trust there now, and he's giving them a lot every night. So it's great to see that development kind of coming through after 2 seasons where obviously he was injury plagued, missed the second half of his first season, missed almost the first half of his second season, and now healthy, confident, and you're seeing what that can do for a player.
Finker, before we go, I mean, we inevitably are asking about the first round picks and the prospects, but I mean, there was a big overhaul of this team and this roster, looking to make them a much more competitive team this year. And this veteran presence seems to be making a big difference. Walker Dewar, Phil DiGiuseppe, of course, who won a Calder Cup last year, coming over. He's at the top of the scoring leaders. And David Gustafson, of course, who obviously is probably disappointed not to be on the Jets, but he's back. He's making some real contributions. I mean, just a quick thought on these veterans right now, their level of buy-in and what that means for a team that has much higher aspirations than where they've been the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think it took a little bit for everything to fall into place. We saw early in the season that there was kind of different lines every game as the coaches tinkered and tried to figure out some groups that work. Then they got one to lock in. And once you get one line to go, then you're only dealing with another few players to try and put in the right spots, right? So eventually everything just kind of linked together, got going for the Moose. And you're seeing that with that veteran presence. I was talking to assistant coach Bob Nardella earlier today, and he said, even through a game in Rockford where they were against the ropes at times, despite winning 5-2, there was no panic. They were just steady. They played well in their own zone, and then that turned into offense. We saw a bunch of goals off the rush because they were able to knock pucks out of the zone, chase them down, or a quick chip out of the zone and push up ice. So it's that veteran presence that's kind of bleeding through to the younger players as well as just a very calm, measured game. And I think the Moose, maybe early on, were saying, okay, we've got all these guys, we've got this deep team, we should go out and try to score a ton of goals every night. Well, that wasn't exactly working. So now they're kind of settling into themselves. They're playing strong defensively. The forward group is there to help the defenders, things like that. And now it's turning into a little bit more offense. And their goal totals against are staying down as well. So that's a pretty potent combination. Of course, they would like to score a few more goals, I think. You're not going to win every night 3-2, and then they went out 5-2 against Rockford. So we'll see if they can maybe build off of that game, start to find a few more goals and raise that overall team shooting percentage. Because if they can do that, Huss, then they're truly going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Lots of hockey coming up for fans over the course of the next couple of weeks at Canada Life Center.
Gotta love it.
We've got the Hockey Fights Cancer game on Saturday, and then the following Saturday, that Epic Fun Day, just to fill people in on some of the promos that the Moose team is cooking up for fans.
Yeah, of course. Like you mentioned, the Hockey Fights Cancer game in support of Camp Quality, which is such a great cause. There's all sorts of ways fans can support that cause, whether it's the autograph mystery pucks. There's some pretty cool players mixed in there, including Connor Hellebuck. There are autographed art pieces, which I actually got to see the other day, which are very, very cool. There's this goalie stick, Huss, and the artist, I'm sorry, the name escapes me right this second, but just did this incredible art all over this goalie stick. The guys have signed it, and it is really cool. So those are going to be auctioned off on the concourse. All the proceeds going to Camp Quality and much more going on, 50-50 proceeds, things like that. Rolling into next week, we've got the school day game coming up on Tuesday, so that 10:30 puck drop. There are going to be there's already, I think, over 6,700 kids confirmed to be in attendance. So if you're looking for the craziest atmosphere and to skip out on work for a little bit, you can still snag some tickets for that one if you want to be a part of it, and maybe wear some earplugs because it will be deafening. The following night on that Wednesday against Belleville, it's the CFB 100th anniversary celebration game. The Moose, if you check out our social media channels, you can see the new jerseys, the specialty jerseys that the team will be wearing in honor of that, a milestone for CFB Winnipeg. So that is looking like it's going to be a lot of fun as well. And then, like you mentioned, Epic Fun Day on the weekend. What is it? It's provocative. It gets the people going. It is all things. It's just, a night to just throw everything at the wall and just have a blast. And so there's things going on the concourse, like for the kids, kind of a pregame party for the Jets Kids Club. There's the Wacky Doodle dance party. I don't get tired of saying that, Huss. On the concourse as well. And they'll be
I hope you're leading the way on that.
Yeah, of course. You know me. And then as well, some video game tournaments, whether it's Chell or Minecraft, there's cool stuff going on there. So there's all sorts of stuff going on the concourse. So really looking forward to that one. Should be a lot of fun. And then the day after that, we're really packing them in here, Huss. On the 30th, that'll be the team poster giveaway, as well as the full team autograph alley, which is, of course, an exclusive for ticket members. So if you are a ticket member, you aren't in that game, want to use your ticket trade to get into that game, something like that, be sure to look into that, and don't miss it if you are a ticket member, because obviously it's your chance to kind of get up and close, meet all the guys on the team, get some great autographs, things like that. So all sorts of fun coming up here, Huss. It is a jam-packed homestand, and really looking forward to it. You can get your tickets at moosehockey.com/tickets.
Finker, you're the man. Good luck. Have a great call tonight and throughout the weekend, and we'll look forward to catching up with you maybe next week as the homestand for the Moose continues. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll see you down at the rink.
All right, you got it. There's Dan Fink, broadcaster extraordinaire with the Manitoba Moose. Game coming up tonight and then Saturday afternoon. All right, we have I guess we could call this a little bit of breaking news. We'll bring in Pat Gregoire in just a minute. But Remo, this is a tweet from one Frank Saravelli 5 minutes ago. And kind of ironic that it's coming right after our conversation about the Manitoba Moose. League sources say the Winnipeg Jets have given 2022 first-round pick Brad Lambert's representation permission to find a trade partner. Lambert, 21, has 1 goal in 4 games for the Jets in limited minutes this season. And then, of course, there's all sorts of fans of other teams saying, yes, get him now. That's a bit of an interesting development, I must say. Now, I guess this somewhat coincides with him, along with Chibrikov, and Parker Ford heading down to the Moose. Chibrikov was, I guess, the first one to get in. Then it was Ford. Then it was Lambert, albeit in a different bit of a role. I'm not sure that the Jets are desperate to make any moves right now, but I will say this. For a team that probably would like to keep their first-round picks, if it's not going to happen for Brad Lambert, that is a chip that could potentially be used in somewhat of a deal to shore up the lineup, whether it be now or in the future.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Brad Lambert's value would be, Huss. He, didn't have a great season in the AHL last year, hasn't been a big contributor at the NHL level, and he's seemingly unhappy with the situation in Winnipeg. And that's the thing, when you get drafted to the NHL, you may not necessarily be in the situation that's best for yourself, and you're kind of tied to that team for the first, 7 years of your career per the CBA. But he says he wants to find a different situation, and the Jets are like, well, if you can go out and do it, you do the work for us to try to find a trade that works, go do that. I don't know if anything is going to result from this, Huss, other than the fact that we know now that Brad Lambert unhappy with his role and wants a change of scenery. And maybe I don't know who his agent is. I'll have to look it up right now. But it's interesting, and we'll go with that. I don't know if there's anything is going to happen, but seemingly interesting. I remember didn't Frank report Logan Stanley wanted to trade one time, and nothing really happened there, and now he's on a career goal pace.
The list of players that have been given the freedom or the opportunity for their representation to find a trade is a long one. Wasn't that Connor Garland 2 years ago at the start of the year with Vancouver, and he's since signed another deal? I mean, this does not mean anything is imminent, and I think the Winnipeg Jets, having invested, albeit a very late first-round pick in Brad Lambert, will be, okay, this is what we'd want if we were going to trade for him. Go find it. If it happens, great. If not, Brad's got to... you make a great point. It wasn't like this guy tore up the AHL last year and, put everybody on notice that, he's just too good for that league. That's what the task will be for him tonight with the Moose and moving forward. But the fact that this is now out in the open and Frank is reporting that, I'm sure we'll hear more about it coming up soon. So, if you're just tuning in, just in the last few minutes, Frank Saravelli saying league sources saying the Jets have given Brad Lambert's representation permission to find a trade partner. All right, I'm sure you guys will all have many takes on that. Fire away in the chat. I won't even get to. I won't get to that. But yeah, this is. I mean, how many times have we heard this before? I mean, Ville Heinola was another guy. I didn't even really want to get to Ville right now. His season has been so-so, I guess. 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. He is a team worst -14. So, I mean, hey, not every pick works out. And listen, I got a lot of time for Brad Lambert as a player. But right now, it's pretty hard to make an argument that, he should be in the lineup over anybody else that's there right now. And frankly, I think you probably have an argument over who's the call-up. Is it Parker Ford? Is it Nikita Chibrikov? Or is it Brad Lambert? Discuss amongst yourselves. Keep it coming in the chat. All right, let's bring in our good friend, Pat Gregoire from Coolbet, who just completed his first experience in the Peg. What a weekend. So great to have you guys here. Fun to be hanging out. Obviously, an amazing event on Saturday with you and some VIPs and some of our friends from the media. Patty, what was the verdict on your Winnipeg experience?
Well, first and foremost, want to thank everyone for the Peg hospitality. It was awesome. Capped up. I know folks around town weren't thrilled that the Riders walked away as Grey Cup champs, but as new members, who am I kidding? Lifelong member of Rider Nation. No, we were pumped for Brett Lawther. Ended up partying with the team after. It was awesome. But the Winnipeg was great. It definitely helped that you guys had some seasonally unbelievable weather.
Oh my God, was it nice?
It was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. When I was telling my buddies I was heading out to the Peg, they're like, "Oh my God, it's going to be cold." I was like, "No, it's going to be great weather." It was great weather. The people were great. The party at Confusion Corner was awesome. I have a slight addiction to honey dill sauce. I came home with a jar from the airport. I absolutely love it. The tenders just don't taste the same without it. So, no, it was great. I will say I will be back for the Peg. I will be back at the Peg. We're going to do something similar. So if you missed out on the Grey Cup party, don't worry. We're going to be doing another party sometime soon. Details to follow a little bit down the road. But an Inception shot will not be on the menu next time I come to Winnipeg. I'll tell you that for free.
I can't believe you guys bullied me into doing that. I'd gone so long without having to take one of those things down. And but yeah, I know it was great. Obviously, Jake came on a Tuesday. We talked a little bit about it, but a lot of fun having the whole team here with us. And
it was awesome.
And what a show! I mean, that the city put on for the Grey Cup. I mean,
awesome.
The downtown, the game itself, everywhere. It means, and this is part of the reason why, I mean, the Grey Cup means a lot here in Winnipeg, which is, I think, why the city was so stoked to be great hosts. And, for the Riders, as much as they are a great rival of the Bombers, and a lot of people don't want to hear it, it is excellent to have the Grey Cup in a place where it really matters. And we've seen the celebrations in Regina over the course of the week, and, well-deserved by a team that had a great, great season. We've got a big slate of games in the NHL tonight, but we've also got a pretty interesting Thursday nighter. Now, you are a longtime member of the Mafia. The Bills have looked like world beaters at times, and they've had some games where they just didn't really show up, particularly after big wins. We saw what happened in the Dolphins game when they went on the road after the Chiefs win. Where's your level of concern for tonight on the road against a very good Houston team that in their last 2 games against Buffalo has really kept Josh Allen in check?
Level of concern is super high. It's an inception shot right now for me. Because not only do you have a very hungry Houston team with one of the league's best defense, this is a team that Josh Allen has struggled against immensely, just 1-3 in his career when you include the regular season and the playoffs. And think back to last year, it was Josh Allen's statistical worst game he's ever had. He had 9 completions in that game. That defense absolutely had him seeing ghosts. So I think this is a game where you look at the history, you look at just the way that the Bills, like you said, come with a big win. Usually they fall flat here. The only thing I will say is at some point they got to start stringing some wins together. Is this the spot? Maybe it is. They're still really banged up. A lot of really key pieces going to be out on both sides of the ball. So for me, if again, don't bet on or against my team. I think the Bills probably win this game, but I think it's going to be a close one. Take the 5.5 with the underdog. Usually that's a great play, taking the points at home on short rest. Then you put all the other factors in. I really think that, obviously if Houston walked away here with a win, I wouldn't be surprised either. But I think if Buffalo's going to win, it's probably going to be by a field goal, or it's going to be really tight here.
I'm with you. I mean, I think I would be surprised if the Bills didn't find a way to win this game. But I think this is going to be very much in doubt in the fourth quarter, and I think the difference could very well be a field goal or a very close one. That's why I will be taking the points with the Houston Texans at home right now. Davis Mills, we talk about the Bills Mafia. The Mills Mafia has been feeling pretty good lately about the way that he's playing right now. Couple props that I do like for tonight's game. We talked about this with Thomas Tipple yesterday. On Jaden Higgins, the young receiver for the Houston Texans, has had 7 targets in back-to-back games. His receiving totals in and around 28.5 or 29.5. I think on Thomas's advice yesterday, we liked him into the low 30s. So we're going to take the over on the Jaden Higgins receiving total. And I mean, Nico Collins is just such a reception machine. This is going to be a game that they're going to have to score points. Hard to imagine him not seeing a lot of action in the air from Mills. So that over 5.5, I think, for Nico Collins is another number that I don't mind. And I think I've actually put them together. Let's just see. Yes, it is up right now in the Coolbet Canada exclusives. So the exclusive tabs on the left, if you want to go with the ride with Huss, Higgins, 29 or more receiving yards. Nico Collins, 6 catches. And the Texans plus 5.5 up to plus 575. Wasn't quite the 12-1 banger I hit on the Jet game on awesome. Tuesday night, but still a pretty good one. And, as I say, Pat, from a Bills perspective, like they have to keep winning right now. I mean, blowing one of these games as a favorite in advance of the rematch in New England against the Patriots would frankly put them in a situation like the Chiefs are in, albeit a little bit better, but knowing that, you may have to make the playoffs and basically go on the road through the AFC as a wild card team, as opposed to having the benefit of a home game as a division winner.
Yeah, it really is paramount that this team does. And again, it's just like, I get it. Like I think we kind of over exaggerate like confidence going forward, but like this team is feeling really, really good about themselves probably after that Bucs game. They need to keep that going because you get the big win against the Chiefs, then you fall flat against a divisional rival. Then you get a big win against the Bucs. Like Josh Allen himself looked like old school Josh Allen, backyard football Josh Allen, multiple touchdowns through the air, multiple touchdowns on the ground, a couple interceptions. Like I think hero ball Josh Allen this year with the wide receiver core that they have, I think that might have to be the recipe for success going forward because they don't really have the pieces where he can be a little more efficient. Like I think a backyard football might have to be the play for Josh, at least while James Cook continues to get more healthy. But from a betting perspective for some props, again, I always say I don't bet on the teams I cheer for, but I have no problem weighing some wagers on the teams that they're playing or the team that I'm cheering for in player props. You nailed one of my favorites, though. Higgins is a great pick. I actually think Nick Chubb for his rushing yards, I think that's a great play. Woody Marks, I know, was a really big, trendy fantasy football pickup. A lot of people were hitting his props throughout the year. He's kind of slowed down, and Chubb's number is 21.5. I think we're seeing more of a 50-50 split or even a 60-40. the Bills have one of the worst rushing defense in the NFL. In fact, against motion with rushing, they have the absolute worst defense when it comes to rushing. So I think Chubb is going to break 1 or 2 off. 21.5 is absolutely no problem. And then from a Bills perspective, 2 quick ones right here. Josh Allen over 33.5 rushing yards. As good as Houston's defense has been, they're 18th in rushing yards are allowed against opposing quarterbacks, and they are dead last in scramble yardages against as well, giving up 10.7 yards per game against the scramble. Josh Allen, I think he's, like I said, it's going to have to go old school Josh Allen, video game Josh Allen to pick up some of these wins here. And of course, this is usually for you and I, more of a play that we talk about during the golf season. But Khalil Shakir and his wife welcomed a lovely baby into the world. Baby swag touchdown scorer for Khalil Shakir, plus a 294. You can get that right now at CoolBet. So that's one that I've already played. So those are my 4 favorite props for tonight's Thursday Nighter.
And Shakir is the safety blanket for Josh Allen as well. Yeah. Over 4.5 is minus 132, 5.5 plus 148. So 6 catches, 7 catches plus 264. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a big role, partly because he's good and he's that safety blanket. The other side of it is that I'm not really buying Josh Allen's other weapons at wide receiver. So, and we saw Keon Coleman dancing around, laughing it up as a healthy scratch last game. So
I know. Drive me nuts, man.
Cooking up. Tomorrow morning, Pat, Jake, and I, 10 a.m. right here on the channel for WST Winners. We'll dive into all of the big games in the NFL this week. Couple of the top matchups. You got the Steelers-Bears, 2 division leaders. Can't believe I'm saying that. Bears are minus 2.5 point favorite. The Patriots, 6.5 point road favorites against the Bengals. We got the Vikings-Packers. Oh, that line just moved as we were doing this. It was 6.5. It's now 6. Chiefs, a gotta-have-it win. Must win. Can't lose. All of the above. Hosting Indy. Chiefs up minus 3.5 at plus 100. Seahawks, massive 2 touchdown favorites in Tennessee. Eagles and Cowboys. The Eagles laying 3 on the road in Dallas. Hell of a Sunday nighter. Buccaneers and Rams. And the Bucs, even when they lose, man, the games are fun to watch. Rams right now, seemingly the class of the NFC after their win against Seattle. And then the Monday nighter shaping up the Carolina Panthers and the Niners, with the Niners as 7-point favorites. How about Bryce Young last week? 448 yards.
Insane.
Coming off a loss to the Saints where he passed for like $140.
Is he Mr. November now? Like, he kind of did something similar to this last year where he came on at the end of the season. Yeah, absolutely nuts. Couple of takeaways, though, from the slate that you talk about. Maybe rat line of the year. Eagles only minus 3 against the Cowboys, but we got to get Jake on that one tomorrow. He's the fisherman. He sniffs out the fishy lines. What's the sport book trying to do? Are they begging for us to take the Eagles here? Because let's be honest, though, the Eagles win a lot of games. They haven't been covering a lot of spreads. That one's interesting to me. I'd love to hear what Jake thinks on that. I'll probably stay away from it. And then the other thing I wanted to say, Huss, before you get your thoughts on that game, who leaked in the Buccaneers schedule maker? Like,
oh man,
what? Like, their schedule has been absolutely a meat grinder over the last 5 weeks. Like, they have been through the gambit, and they're not healthy right now. This, to me, like, Rams have looked so good. But that Buccaneers +7 is staring at me in the face. Like, you talk about, it just moved. I guess I'm moving in chicken lines. It's now down to 6.5. As I say that.
People are on it as we do it. Yeah, I mean, we'll really dive into those ones tomorrow. That's a pretty big number against Tampa. But, the one thing that we've seen so far this year is that the strength of schedule, I think, has played into it more so than we've seen in a long time. And, I mean, there's the potential that we could have Indy, New England, and Denver all winning their divisions and potentially being underdogs at home in round 1 of the playoffs because they're playing far more tested, experienced, proven teams that's record aren't there because they played against the class of the league while these teams have been beaten up on cream puffs for a good portion of the season. That being said, there's still lots of football left to be played. 7 weeks left in the regular season, but we're getting close to that U.S. Thanksgiving. We always talk about it with hockey. You really kind of know who's for real and who's not for real by the time you get through next week. So it'll be a big one. We'll be all over it tomorrow, 10 a.m. Make sure to join us live here on Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube at 10 a.m. before that. And good news, Patty, we can tell everyone we are locked and loaded for the next WST poker event. It will be Tuesday night, 8 p.m., off night for the Jets, off night for the NFL. Perfect night to get after it. I've talked to Mr. Dynasty himself, Jeff Hamilton. He's there. The bounty will be in effect. Myself, Remis, the entire gang. So mark it down and join us 8 p.m. for our next WST poker tourney night. I hope you can all join us. It should be a heck of a lot of fun. And we'll be looking for more of those as we get into the holiday season and into the new year.
Yeah, I can't wait for, we've got some cool things coming up from the felt to the poker table, but it is up and live. So don't wait around just in case you forget. You can go to the CoolBet Poker app right now, type in WST, and you can register right away for that next tournament. I know you talked about a big NHL slate. I know we're running out of time here, us. Just for me, my favorite play of the day, Calle Jarnkrok, got elevated to the first line. He's playing with Tavares and Nylander. I know the Leafs just picked up their first win, it feels like, in about a century. I'm not saying they're out of the woodwork, but even when you talk about how bad the Leafs have played, it's been JT and it's been Willie who's been driving the bus. They're still putting up numbers. So if you put Jarnkrok up there, there's a good chance it might go off his shin pad and one of those guys are batting it home. So the fact you're getting almost even money for a winger on the top line, I really like that one. So that's going to be my play of the day from the rink.
Yeah, listen, how about the Leafs being a slight home dog to the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight? That pretty much tells you the way they've been playing.
Sad times in Toronto, Huss. Sad times.
Just for those of you that are looking at the board tonight, I do like the Avs on the puck line. JT Miller quitting on his team. We'll see if he has got a big bounce back. I don't think it matters. The Avalanche are the top team, and everyone else is just looking up at them. The Oilers, back-to-back nights, backup goalie going into Tampa. Probably Tampa. The Blackhawks have been playing really well. We're going to be rolling with Chicago tonight. They're at home to the Seattle Kraken. And I like Philly against St. Louis as well at -123. So there's a few picks tonight. It's all up at CoolBet. Great night to maybe put a parlay or two together with about 10 or 11 games in the National Hockey League. Patty, enjoy the action tonight. Get in the lab. We got to cook up some winners for the people tomorrow at 10 a.m. on WST Winners.
Yeah, 0-4 week for me last week. It was really ugly. I think I still nailed my two props. I have to be better. I will be better. I promise the WST winners I will be better, and I am going to put a 4-0 week together. I'm calling my shot, Mark Messier. I guarantee 4-0 week coming up with WST winners.
I love it. Speak it into existence. Gang, as I said, 10 a.m. tomorrow. Make sure to join us. Patty, all the best, man. Great to see you and the gang. Thanks for everything last weekend. And we'll talk to you tomorrow right here on WST.
Let's go Bills.
All right. Enjoy the game tonight. Yeah, Houston and Buffalo tonight, kicking off just after 7. Houston, they're the Bills, 5.5 point, 6-point favorites right now over at coolbet.com. If you haven't played a CoolBet, you can use the promo code WST when you're making that first deposit for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. All right, let's get Michael Remis back in here. And Remo, you've had a few minutes to digest it. Obviously, I knew the minute we saw that tweet from Frank that it would get the chat going. That's for sure.
The chat's going. The chats want to know the takes on that Brad Lambert wants to change the scenery. I mean, he's with the Moose right now. The results haven't been there. I get why he would want, so I don't know what the value for him is out there. Like he's
trade him to Pittsburgh for Rutger.
Like he's a former first round pick. Like you're not getting a first round pick for him. Can you get a depth player? Like what's his ceiling at this point in the NHL? Depth scorer?
Well, I mean, listen, I think more than anything, he wants to play in the league. So, I mean, I'm sure a team like Calgary or something like that would have a spot for a young player. You can they just picked up a guy off waivers earlier this week. His name escapes me. Probably isn't going to be in any cup contender that's like, oh yeah, get us that guy and we're going to put him in the lineup. But I mean, there will be some areas in and around the league, whether it's a Calgary or it's a Buffalo or something like that, where a player like Brad Lambert might be able to go in and play some consistent games and maybe establish himself as an NHL player that, is not going to happen on one of the better teams in the league, of which the Jets are one. So we'll get into that tomorrow on the program for sure. Mike McIntyre will be joining us as we get ready for the Jets and the Carolina Hurricanes. That is going to do it for us today. Fun show today coming off the Adam Lowry signing last night. We got some football tonight. We got a ton of hockey. And then tomorrow, we welcome back Nikolai Ehlers. Hopefully we'll be able to hear from Nikolai Ehlers tomorrow. Certainly from Scott Arniel, as well as the Winnipeg Jets. Connor will be down there in the morning, so we'll have a game day report on the Ehlers return. And, of course, tomorrow, our second WST game of the month. And we'll look forward to seeing all of you that got tickets join us up in Section 316 for the game tomorrow night. Big thanks to Dave Pagnotta, Kevin Sawyer, Daniel Fink, and, of course, Pat Gregoire, and all of you for making us a part of your day. Folks, enjoy the evening. The NFL Thursday nighter, all the pucks. And we'll look forward to seeing you right back here at 1 o'clock tomorrow for WST. And don't forget, 10 a.m. for you NFL fans as we chop up our favorite picks against the Lions tomorrow with Jake and Pat from CoolBet. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow to kick off the weekend. And, of course, the world-famous WST marble race tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.